Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Tuesday the 18th of April comes to you from London. And we start by looking at currencies, then stock markets, some commodities, and last of all some US tech stocks. And the interesting thing is a lot of political turmoil with North Korea and Syria, but the markets haven't really moved that much since we come back over Easter. So and US stocks were trading yesterday on the most part. So we see here that on the dollar index we are still just a bit bearish. We're below. We're building this pattern here. We've got resistance at about 101.40. If we break 101.50, then we activate this upside target and the dollar would start to run again. Bullish long term. Medium term, just the outlook is a bit bearish, and short term bearish as well. So the key thing is seeing that long-term trend winning through, but for the moment the dollar is bearish. It means that the euro is bullish on the short term, just starting to get bullish on the medium term, but the long-term chart still very bearish with lots of downside targets. So really waiting for the next directional move for calling the euro dollar. And if we look at the Japanese yen, yen has been weakening but just starting to strengthen this morning, coming back through the cloud here, but medium and long term still bearish with downside targets. So strong yen, which is a classic risk on trade. Sterling continuing to rise in the short term and on the medium term bullish, but the long term is still bearish as well. So sterling gaining some strength here. We've got targets now to 126 and an activated target to 129, so we are just seeing that kicking through as well. Same is true of sterling against the euro. We're just seeing that relationship where sterling is now gaining the upper hand, 118. So an upside target here to 118.64. So not any massive upside targets, but just starting to rise against the euro. So sterling really putting in some quite good short and medium term recovery. And we see that against the Swiss franc as well, and against the Australian dollar, quite a big jump above the cloud there, and medium term rising as well. Looking at US stock markets, we see the S&P 500 recovered quite strongly yesterday, but bearish below the clouds still. We've got some downside targets here. The medium and long-term charts are still very bullish, as is the Nasdaq. Just short-term weakness, but the long and medium-term charts are still bullish. And the same with the Dow, as we would expect, and the Russell 2000. Not as clearly bullish in the medium term, but the long-term picture is still pretty good. The futures, we're seeing just a slight downside on the S&P today, and the Nasdaq E-mini just a slight upside, so no clear direction yet as to which way the markets will open. FTSE's down 0.5% this morning. And we're seeing that we're just below the cloud there as well in the UK. So interestingly, the FTSE 250 continues to power ahead. It's the Midcaps in the UK that are really performing strongly at the moment. We see the DAX is up this morning just very slightly, but below the cloud in the short term, so that's quite key as well. And the Nikkei we're seeing here just still continuing to fall away. That stronger yen having an impact below the cloud there. And the Hang Seng also below the cloud. So Asian markets just looking a little bit less good, and Shanghai also just selling off quite a bit as well. So we're seeing that India is up this morning, but it is still just below the cloud on the short term, but is one of the better looking long-term markets. And the Australian market just holding on the lagging line, but we are seeing just a little bit of a sell-off there as well. Taking a look at crude oil. This 56.50 level, 57.50 is the level that we need to break in the medium term to run. We really struggled about 56.50. We're back below the cloud at the moment. We've activated a downside target of 53.74. So we have really recovered very strongly. And we see that here, but we've just come back to find resistance in the cloud here. So we really are in a period of great uncertainty for crude oil, and we're seeing that also with the WTI contract. We're below on the short-term chart, and the downside target of 37 activated, not yet negated. We needed to get above that, and we're just falling short of that. So we see here the downside target of 51.17. So just struggled to break that above that new high. So there's quite strong resistance there. Looking at US nat gas, below the cloud at about 315. hitting some resistance here in the medium term as well, so that's quite key. Copper just turning bearish in the short term and medium term as well. Taking a look at gold, gold has been really performing very strongly the last several weeks. We see here on the medium term chart and the long term chart, and we're still holding the bullish position on the short term chart. We've activated a new short term target of 1371. That's 6.8% upside. That's a stellar target, but a lot of buying strength coming into gold, so that's looking pretty strong at the moment. Silver not quite as strong, but also has been going up the last several weeks. US Treasury yields 2.24%. We were as high as 250 there, 260 almost for a while. So we are just seeing a little bit of a double top in the yield curve here on the long-term chart. So it's just looking bearish as well. Apple was up yesterday, but just short term still bearish. Google's held on to its bullish position, so looking a bit better. Amazon is finding support on the cloud short term, again looking good. Facebook jumped quite significantly yesterday, not back above the cloud on the short term, but looking pretty good. And Microsoft just holding its position as well, but a little bit of chop in the sideways, just not performing as strongly as some of the new tech stocks. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.